Welcome back to the Your Biggest Vision Show. I'm your host, Leah Gervais, and I am excited and flattered that we have Miss Susie Moore on our podcast for the second time, actually. So welcome back, Susie.
Thank you, Leah. I love speaking with you, so any excuse, I'll take it.
Oh, I feel the same way. You are the most visionary. You're the biggest visionary. Awesome.
Well, I feel like I belong here. Thank you.
You do. You are exactly the kind of people that we love having here. And we are here with a really kind of exciting reason. So we are here to talk about your newest book, Stop Checking Your Likes. Congratulations on this.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy that you've had a chance to read it before everybody else too.
Yes, I feel very honored to have done so. You guys, this book, like at the time of this recording, if you listen to it in real time, we are in the thick of the coronavirus, of this pandemic, of the craziest thing I've ever seen in my lifetime. You all know I live in New York, which is the center of it. Susie is a New Yorker who currently lives in Florida. So she has this personal attachment to it on both ends. And this has been exactly what I need right now and what I would recommend you reading as well right now, because self-care and putting yourself first is more important than ever, especially if you want to keep moving forward with your vision during this time, which I encourage you to do. But I'm not going to lie, the media, the news, it's hard, it's intense. And this has really kept it real. So that's the vibe I have from it. And I just want to thank you for that, Susie, and share with you that it's gotten me through some of this.
Oh, thank you. What a wonderful thing to hear. I mean, you're right. It's a very weird time. I mean, we don't know how long it's going to last. It's kind of just unfolding before us day by day. So yeah, I think it's good to protect your focus, what it is that you're giving your attention to, that you have control over. And I think that's a message certainly in the book too.
Definitely. And just also, giving yourself the permission to not know how to navigate this. And I think a lot of people are wondering, how do I show up on social media? Do I keep, going with my business? Is that insensitive? And knowing that none of us know how to deal with this. And I think your book really does such a great job of making it practical to give yourself your own permission and not look for permission elsewhere. And it just feels more relevant than ever right now.
Oh, well, thank you. I feel as if there's no right or wrong way to live your life. Right. And there's certainly navigate a situation like the one that we're in. I mean, we all need to be responsible. We're all staying home. We're doing the things that we're told. But how else do we handle it? I mean, it's entirely up to us. And I feel like it's so easy to, abdicate our power, abdicate what it is that we can, what it is that we have control over, even in our small homes, right? Even in our apartments, in our minds, most importantly. So I always like to kind of put my attention there thinking, what is it, where can I be powerful? Where are my options? And when you look, you always see that there are so many.
Totally. I totally agree. Love it. Well, let's go back a little bit, because you obviously wrote this book before you had any idea that we were going to be in this moment in time.
Oh yes. Who could have predicted? Yeah.
Oh, and I am impressed but not surprised at how happy and positive you've remained, even though you're having a book launch in the midst of this. That's not easy, but I'm not surprised that you still have a smile on your face. Yes. So do tell me, why now? Why did you write this book? You've written so many others, you have so many other things going on. What was really the calling for you?
I feel as if having been a coach, having been an advice columnist for a long time, hearing people's questions, their struggles, I realized that there's a really common thread amongst all of us who fear making a bold move, making a change, actually even doing anything minor. I mean, wearing something new, saying something different, standing out even in a small way. It's not the fear of failing or the fear of getting it wrong that scares us, because as human beings, we're resilient. Yeah, look throughout history. Look at even how quickly we're all adapting now.
Right.
But what I realized that we fear the most isn't the failure or the mistake or the thing going wrong. It's what people will say about us. Mm-hmm. It's like the judgment that other people will put upon us that carries the most weight. And because of that, we hold back a lot, right? We're often just not ourselves. We can kind of become a version of ourselves that other people will like. We give up a lot. We don't realize how few risks we take because we want to kind of play it safe. And not because, anything that we do or try can really harm us, but because the fear of, what will this person or that person say or think is just really keeping us, held back and small.
And so you just got to a place where you had seen it almost sabotage so many people for so long, and you're like, enough's enough.
Enough's enough. And yeah, and I call the
Yeah.
book Checking Your Likes because like it's not a social media book, as you know, but
No.
social media has become this very modern measurement of how well we're doing, right? Of how well we're living our life. You know, are we popular enough? Are we saying the right things, wearing the right things, you know, eating the right, you know, fish tacos, you know, for Christ's sake, like whatever, you know, whatever it is. And it's certainly nothing new. It's just very, very, you know, it's 24/7 and it's public. So essentially, yes, I feel as if we can make our inner like button even a little bit louder, if we kind of trust that and give more, you know, give more focus to that, then our lives can change really dramatically.
And one of the things that really hit home for me that you talk about in the book is, you know, not just how we hold ourselves back because we're afraid of what people will think, but also how we actually move forward with things because we think we should, based on like what other people think. And, you know, that obviously is something I see a lot here in New York, because New York does have a lot of, I guess, sort of just, I don't know, I don't want to say superficial success, but I guess prepaid success involved with these big corporate jobs, with these very prestigious schools, etc. And you know, told the story of how you actually like had lunch with a friend, and she had kind of done really well in her career and felt guilty about not doing the family thing, and then done the family thing, and then been like, I don't even know if I actually wanted any of this. Like, you know, you're just, so it's like this need for approval. It shows up both in holding us back and actually sometimes moving us forward in a way that isn't authentic to us. So my question is, and I know that you share some of this in the book, but for someone who is really resonating with this, but maybe even saying to themselves, this is true, but I don't even really know what I want, or like what I actually would do if I had this all stripped away. What would be the first kind of direction you point them in?
Oh, it's a good question. And if you have that question, you know, I don't know what I want. I mean, I'd say look around at your life really objectively, just for a moment, and think, how much of this was my idea? Really?
Great question.
How much this job, the place that I live, how I spend my weekends, what I eat, what I wear. In fact, I thought it was funny because I even share in my book that in the first chapter, it's called Your Parents Effed You Up. And it's not their fault. We're not blaming parents. We're not here to hate or shame anybody. You know, our parents had parents. It didn't start with them. We naturally inherit beliefs from, you know, our environment. But I even shared that, you know, even a stylist in New York told me that a lot of the clothes that we wear as women are influenced by our mothers. We don't even realize. It's like, don't wear ripped jeans, don't wear a red coat, like whatever it is.
I thought of like 10 different things I don't wear because of my mother when I read that part.
I know. My mom has some funny ideas about clothes too. And you know, I listened to them, I would say until I turned 30, probably, without unconsciously. It's like, well, no, nice girls don't wear that. You know, this isn't elegant, you know. So I think that sometimes even just the very act of questioning a belief or how you're living, or a thought that you just have on repeat in your mind, is it really yours? And you're in the top 10% of people if you do this, because most people never question anything. They're like, this is how the world is. This is how people are. And everything, reality is an interpretation, right? Everything is a perspective. And so thinking, how do I feel? Look around. How much of this is my idea? How does it feel? Does it feel really satisfying? Like, do you feel, yeah, I wouldn't change that, always growing, but yet, you know, satisfied where I am, eager for the next stage, but good for now here, like feeling good? Or are you feeling like, I don't know if I like my city. I don't know if I like my relationship. I don't know if I like my job. I don't know. I mean, the body knows, right? Your emotions will tell you, especially over time. Our bodies are very intelligent. And the thing is, nobody knows what's inside of you or what's right for you. And we kind of come through our parents, but we don't belong to them. And we don't belong to anybody. And when you think about what it is that's going to serve you, only you know. And if you say, or somebody says, I just don't know what I want, I would reject that. I would say that maybe you haven't tuned in for a while.
Right.
But we know. We know. And even a very simple exercise you can do is, if you really don't know, to start thinking of things you definitely don't want. So if someone says, you know, yeah, but I don't know what I'd like to do, you know, if I were to, for example, work for myself, I'd say, well, how about you start, you know, manufacturing guns? Is that what you want to do? What about, do you want to create like a greenhouse where you grow tomatoes? Like, no, right? I mean, even just through elimination, you become very clear on what's warm and hot, like warm or cold for you. So if someone says, I don't know, I think that's an excuse to not move forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that just from everything you said, there's like 3 really concrete steps everyone can take from this right now. I'd encourage you guys to do it as you listen to this episode. Well, 4. So 1, ask yourself, what about my life was my idea? Like, what about this did I actually want? 2, recognize that if you feel like you don't know what you want, you do. And it might just be a matter of like connecting with your intuition. And 3, just make the list of what you don't want. I have my clients do that all the time with business type things when they're feeling like, I don't know which direction to go in. Well, let's just eliminate it, because sometimes that's just as informative. So I love that advice. And so, one of the things I love about you, Susie, and in this book is that you're just so brave. You're so candid. You talk about the things you've been through in life, the things you went through in childhood, some of which, are not lighthearted. You've been through some stuff. And I guess this is kind of a big question, but I'd just love to see where you go with this. When you look at some of the things that happened to you, like with your parents in that situation, or the divorce that you went through when you were young, it feels like it all kind of lined you up to be, courageous and a leader in this space of self-advocacy and of believing in yourself and self-acceptance. And so would you say it's all worth it? Like, how do you view it now on being on the other side of it and actually helping people all over the world with this kind of stuff?
Oh, what a good question. Thank you. I feel as if, yes, everything kind of leads you to the moment, right? And this is again where our power is, or it's not, depending on what we seize, right? So one thing that I love to do whenever I'm working with anybody who's dealing with like a past issue or a current issue is, the traditional psychology model of cause and effect, right? This happened, and so then this is the case, right? I had this difficulty, which is why I can't do this, for example, I had dysfunctional parents, which means that I don't know how to function in the world, or my parents went through an ugly divorce. My parents weren't even married, actually, but so you say my parents went through an ugly divorce, which is why I can't trust men or women, right? The one thing that I love to do is to flip those 2. So just say, for example, it's my parents had an ugly divorce, which is why I can't trust men. I would say trusting somebody and being vulnerable takes some courage. And because that might feel scary, it's easier to blame your parents. So it's good, even a good excuse or a good reason which the world will sympathize with, it's still an excuse. Right. And it's not helpful, right? Unless you don't want to be married, don't want to be with anybody, that's fine. But then probably we wouldn't be having a conversation about it. It wouldn't be a problem. Right. So it's kind of taking away like the cause is the problem and seeing the cause as something else. And I feel, in a way, anybody who's had any adversity, any family trauma, any like addiction, abuse, illness, like whatever it is you've experienced, I feel as if, almost like the greater the struggles you've had, or the greater what it is that you've experienced, the greater your contribution can be. And sometimes even the greater your destiny can be, because look what you've overcome, and look what it is that you have to give to others. And I think that sometimes sharing our stories, this is why I work, with the media so much, but sharing our stories, sharing, after something happened, how, what you've learned, what it is that you have to, contribute, that's a very generous act. It's a very, very kind of generous place to be. And whatever it is that you've experienced, you won't be the first, you certainly won't be the last, but if you can be okay, right? If what it is that you've been through has been okay, and you still manage to kind of, forge ahead, then that's a story worth sharing. And I feel like that's why I wanted to share some of my bizarre, unusual family stories, because I'm like, if I tell somebody, they're like, are you joking? You know what I mean? I talk about my dad having, prostitutes at home, or there being drugs at home. It just being like quite wild, but, but still being an example of, that's okay. But that's not how I'm going to live. Like my life is going to be a little different.
Right. Absolutely. And you kind of just answered this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because I think you do a good job of like addressing it in the book, and I'd love to hear your perspective on it. But when people have these adversities in life, when you have a divorce, or you have a trauma in upbringing, or I can use myself as an example, I lost a parent. And you do find the meaning. I personally don't like the phrase, the silver lining, because I don't like thinking that there was like a net gain. It can be like there's a there's a positive thing that happened. This was really hard, and there's a positive thing that happened. They don't outweigh each other. My question is, when someone relates to what you're saying right now and is open to the idea of finding purpose, finding hope, finding leadership through their challenges, how do they move past, and how have you moved past the guilt of actually being okay with the fact that you got divorced young and not actually like feeling anything negative about it, or you know, any of these other adversities that society almost tells us we should not be able to handle, you know? Am I making sense?
Yes, no, absolutely. And I'm happy you brought this up because I haven't been asked this before. And I feel, no, I love it because I feel like the world can almost shame us into feeling certain emotions that
Right.
we don't have to feel. Again, I mean,
Right.
what the emotions that we feel, the thoughts that we think, they're completely connected, first of all. But also, who gets to say that I should feel guilt around something? I mean,
Right.
if you intentionally hurt somebody, that's one thing, right? Like that's, we're going around there trying to hurt people all the time. Like that's a completely different thing to, you know, learning as you go, trusting something that didn't work out the way that you hoped. You know, also the way that I talk about my dad, like I lost my dad when I was 19. I loved him so much. I still do. I don't feel a great sadness around that. I feel okay with it. I feel like he's with me. And, you know, I always like to, you know, tell jokes that my dad would find funny, you know, even if people think it's a bit weird. And I'm like, you know, it's up to me how I experience my life, right? It's up to me how I experience my loss. And I feel like if you have a different way of looking at it that isn't like this sad churchy tone when something goes wrong and everyone's uncomfortable, if you can have a different way of being around it, then bring it, right? Like be an example of something else. It's
Right.
you know, if anyone judges how you feel or judges, you know, the way that you process something, I mean, are they Jesus? I mean, like,
right. Like, why them? Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, and there's even this old saying I was reading that, you know, even God doesn't judge us until the end of our days. I mean, like even this, I mean, when people are so willing to, you know, have an opinion about how you process your life, experience your sadness, it's all about them, right?
Right.
It's like their own, you know, and sometimes it deserves a lot of compassion too, because sometimes people want to understand how we can be okay, and then that's our job then to share, like how we interpret events, how we heal, like what we do that helps us. There can be some learning in this, I think, if we're open.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that answer. And that reminds me of one of my favorite chapters in your book, which was called So What? And like this chapter alone could probably save someone hundreds of dollars worth of therapy.
I hope so.
It's like this 2-word phrase, and just you know, sharing how that's helped you as a business owner deal with things that have really been challenging. And I think it just kind of goes back to this, what you're saying right now, which is just that you don't need to internalize other people's projections of how you should live your life. And so I guess like a follow-up question to kind of that concept, which is, well, actually, would you please summarize the so what concept for us before I,
yes.
before I ask more about it?
So what? Next time you're going to be offended, upset, humiliated, embarrassed, let down, what if you could just apply this 2-word question, so what, to any perceived problem? Because I tell you, you could take something and have a whole story about it, and it can impact the rest of your life in some cases, or it could be like a, you know, flick dust off the shoulder, what's for lunch? Right. I tell you, and if you want to choose the latter, then yeah, welcome to like this joyful life that you will have, because we don't have to accept the heaviness. We don't have to take everything so seriously, so personally, so deeply. And what if we could just be lighter about it? You know, just like reflect it off, say, you know what, like whatever it is. I mean, I once had this conversation between 2 women who were racked with guilt about, one had some pizza, one had something else. And I was like, I can't believe I'm listening to this. Like it was in a line. And I was like, so what, ladies, you know, if you don't like it, then don't eat it again today or whatever. I mean, there's always a solution, right? But so much of the issue is just, is us making everything far more dramatic in a lot of cases than it needs to be.
Right. And I love how you shared, you know, applying it to like a mean YouTube comment that you got.
Oh, yes. Well, I get loads of mean comments, Leah. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not my business. And by the way, if you're in business and you're not getting mean comments yet, it's a matter of time, right?
Yeah.
So I would expect it, right? Maybe somebody's either quite new or they're playing it safe. That's that in my experience. If you're not getting any mean comments at all, you're brand new, or you're probably keeping it really, really safe. And even when you play it safe, you'll find people who don't like you, but
Right.
it's okay. I mean, mean comments, and this is what confidence is, Leah. People get it wrong, right? We kind of think confidence is so many things, and it's not. Like, we think you have to be a great speaker, or you have to be able to dominate a conversation, or be charismatic. And confidence is simply the ability to hold negative emotion in the body, and being willing to do that. So for example, just say I had a mean YouTube comment, and yeah, that hurts, but knowing, hey, this is going to pass, everything does, it's not going to kill me, and then putting out another YouTube video. Right? That's what confidence is. It's putting out the next video, whatever that looks like in your life or business.
Right.
That's what confidence is.
I mean, this really hit home for me when I was reading that chapter. I was thinking, I think I've told this story before, but when my business was ramping up and I first started making 5-figure months, I shared it on Instagram. I was really proud of it. I've always
been
really, and
then you're an inspiration. You're an inspiration too, Leah, that way.
Right. Exactly. That's like what I always think of, is like the Leah who was in her cubicle, wondering what the heck she was going to do. Like, if I didn't know, or like, I'm sharing for the person out there who's thinking, I'm not happy, but I don't know what else to do. And I'm trying to be the voice that's like, you can't do something else. So anyway, I started sharing that. I've always been really transparent about it. And man, who I am kind of friends with, had the audacity to message me and basically tell me that he didn't believe me, that he thought I could never have been making that much, blah, blah, blah. I don't actually think it came from a malicious place. I think he was just maybe surprised, or he went down a very different path than I did, like a very, decided to do kind of like nonprofit work where you are somewhat expected to not have any money. Not my problem. My point is, that hit me at first. I had all these different reactions. On the one hand, being like, I'm going to fight the patriarchy with this comment. Like, how dare he? If I was a man, I never would have gotten asked this. To then thinking like, well, I'll just block them. Like, I don't need negative people in my life. And then thinking like, oh, well, did I come off a certain way back in the day? Like, that he thinks I'm a liar? I don't know. So I'm like, Susie, a few days later, I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm just going to send him my bank statements and like show him, like, I'm about to send over the internet, like, my financial information. When if I just had this "so what" phrase right when I saw that message, that could have saved me like literally 3 days of like how to handle this. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's amazing the places our brains can go.
and the thing, and it really is, because it takes him 4 seconds to write a DM, and for days you're thinking about this, right? And it's God. Like, and then it's almost like the joke's on us when that's happening, right? Just because somebody might not be, that well informed. I mean, this is actually a call for compassion. If somebody doesn't think that someone can make 10K or more in a month, I mean, yeah, well, of course they can. And maybe it just needs like a little bit more self-belief, and, send like a bit of love to him even.
Yeah. I wasn't at that place at the time.
No, and and you're not immediately there, but like, Leah, there's nothing to prove.
I know. You're totally right. Well,
there's this gorgeous line in the book, A Course in Miracles, which says, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. Right. So like, never defending yourself.
Like, I loved the story that you told when someone called you out, and you're like, never defend yourself ever. It loses people's momentum. Great advice.
Yeah, I mean, and people have told me, I'm sure I've got lying comments. I've got comments around my looks, the fact that I hate men or something like that, or that I'm a gold digger. And again, it's no one's business. I could go into a whole tirade about how I've always outlined my husband, and these are the number, and it's nothing to do with me. It's like me getting involved in like a street fight 5 streets away. It's like, it's nothing to do with me. Yeah.
Right.
Like, and think about, we only get a certain amount of energy per day, emotional energy. And I got a lot of work to do, and so do you. So important work.
Totally. Well, one thing that I feel like I have, always kind of thought about as I've learned so much more about personal development and put myself out there more, and had to learn to be my own number one fan. Is another thing I love that you talk about. Is what's your thoughts and approach on deciphering, other people's opinions and taking that on versus constructive criticism. I feel like we as a society almost are too okay with constructive criticism, and it still ends up being too hard on ourselves. So how do you view the two of them, and what's your like personal philosophy on digesting something or just totally letting it go?
Oh, I would only take constructive criticism from somebody who's further ahead than me, frankly.
Oh, what a great policy.
That's it. I mean, if somebody doesn't, isn't an author, hasn't got a business, doesn't do the work that I do, it's kind of like someone asking me for parenting advice. I mean, I can throw out an idea or two, but it's going to be worthless.
Right.
But people love to give advice in general, and we can't stop them. Everyone's, it's freedom of everything. But
right.
If you're further ahead than me, frankly, is my barometer.
Oh, what an awesome, that's a great, I'm going to adopt that right now. Unless you've done what I want to do, you don't get a say on what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. And a secret benefit of that too is people who are further ahead than you, they believe in you already because they've gone further than you.
Right.
So they're not in a position to be like, I don't know if you can do that, if that's going to be possible, because they're like, yeah, I'm ahead of you. And so, yeah, come this way.
Right. They also don't have time to be like criticizing you. Like they're busy doing things.
Have you ever noticed that? Who's criticizing you? People who are further ahead or the other people?
So true. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my last question specifically about this book is, you're talking to an audience of entrepreneurs here. That's mostly who's here. And so what I'd love your take on, and I think that the whole book kind of answers this question, but you really bravely share throughout this so much of what's happened to you, from like, big things behind the scenes to also just like little things like these mean comments and things like that. And for someone who's reading this and is maybe newer to entrepreneurship and thinking, I love everything she's saying, I so appreciate her candidness, and she has a very successful business. She has had a multi-six-figure career. She is a female breadwinner, successful books, and they don't feel like they're on the other side yet. Where did you, and where do you recommend they find that bravery to still not take things on and know that, we're all in this together and we're all at the same place, really?
Yeah. So you mean the people who are kind of thinking maybe they couldn't achieve it, or they're early in the stages?
The people who are still being too hard on themselves because they feel like they haven't achieved enough yet to let some of this sink in.
Yes. Well, I think that's a common feeling amongst any high achiever, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like I haven't achieved enough constantly.
Totally.
It's a thought that I have, which I then have to question, reframe. If I'm in the right place for me, I'm always learning. But I think it's very, very common. And if you're having that thought, the good sign is that there's a long way to go, right? And there are a lot of things for you to keep achieving. And good for you. I mean, you know how hard it is to do this stuff? I mean, I think, being in a business of your own is the biggest self-development journey there is. You have to be, someone else said this, that you have to be a pathological optimist to be an entrepreneur.
I love that.
And it's true. And the most important thing is managing your mind. This is why it's so great to work with a coach like you, Leah, because everything else can be learned, right? If it were all about knowledge, we'd all have six packs, right? And we'd all be billionaires, right? Stock market billionaires. It's not about knowledge. It's about our mind, our thinking, our ability to solve problems. And most importantly, our ability to keep believing in ourselves, even when things are going wrong. So I would say that that's probably your number one priority, like managing your mind, managing your thinking, having a very kind of self-directed mind, and knowing that that's possible. And that's a decision you get to make. And that's the wonderful part of it.
Totally. And I think another thing that, can apply to someone in that situation that you talk a lot about through the book is that so many of us have this chicken and the egg scenario reversed the wrong way, where we think once we have these achievements, we will be more confident. We will not care what other people think because we've already achieved X, Y, and Z. When in reality, and I can attest to this in my own journey, I've achieved what I have because I started thinking in this way, earlier on, and having to get out of my own way to make these things happen. So apply it now.
Yes, exactly. Listen to Leah. And I mean, I just saw recently, Katy Perry posted a picture saying 100 million downloads, or I don't know, 1 billion downloads. And she's like, and still insecure.
Damn, right? I love that.
Yeah. So it's like, I think there's never a moment where you're like, yep, I'm on top of the mountain, got it all figured out. Like, I'm good now. This is something that happens every day. So go easy. Enjoy it.
Right. And fall in love with the process, because that's what we're here for.
Just do your best, because you never really know what's going to happen. So we don't even know how limited our time is. So if you don't enjoy it, you're missing the point.
Totally. Okay, I said that was my final question, but I have one follow-up question.
I
What
love
would
it.
you say?
Yeah.
Like, so if someone, you know, is going to pick up this book, they are going to do the exercises, they're going to journal about your direct messages throughout it, which I thought was such a cute little pun on like, don't check for likes. Here's literally my DM to you. What kind of transformation could they expect from this? Like, what would feel different about their life?
Oh, what a good question. Okay, so if you ask anybody what they want, right, they could say a million things. They might say, I want a yacht. I want a multi-million-dollar business. I want a man or a woman. I want whatever it is. Joy is the goal of all other goals, right? Happiness is the goal of all other goals. So whatever you think you want it because you think it'll make you happy, right? And happiness is largely based on this feeling of freedom. That's why we want money so much. That's, I think, why money is so desirable, because we think it equals freedom. And it does in a lot of ways. It gives you a lot of options. But I will say that freedom is available before you have to kind of do all of the things, acquire all of the things. Like choosing freedom as, you know, as your birthright, to know that there's freedom available to you in how you interpret the world, how you can let other people's approval not be part of your decision making. And the fact that you have so much more control than you realize, right? The limits that we have, that the majority of them are self-imposed. So I think that the goal for this book is to help you connect and realize your own freedom. Like, because it's there and it's euphoric. Once you realize it, you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm free. Freedom is the best feeling. I think it's really what underpins happiness, and it's available to you. So I would like to make it available to more people.
I totally love that. I totally agree. True freedom does come from freedom to freedom to be who you are and achieve what you want and do what you want in this life. And this book definitely drives that home. So thank you so much for writing this, Susie. Thank you for sharing this with us. It was such a great book to read, especially during these times when we're all needing to be, you know, have a better relationship with ourselves than ever. So it is probably not your favorite timing, but actually kind of good timing.
Yeah, I'm rolling with the punches, right? It's what you got to do.
It's what you got to do. So thank you so much. Where can people find out more about you and the book?
You can head to stopcheckingyourlikes.com for a juicy book bonus for the end of April, but it's also available anywhere books are sold.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Susie, for being here.
Thank you so much, Leah. This was a blast. Mwah.
All right, visionaries, we'll talk to you soon. Here's to your biggest vision.